Misunderstanding 3. Only a risk-neutral valuation can be market consistent. So real-world scenarios should not be used for market consistent valuation. I think it's really funny that this one's in here because the fact is there's other readings on the syllabus that really use risk-neutral and market consistent synonymous. So the only reason why I could see an exam problem using this content being relevant is if they're really, like, if the exam writer is specifically thinking about this reading. And then it's probably going to be a critique that says risk neutral is the same as market consistent, or real world can never be market consistent. Then that's where you obviously say false. Real world can be market consistent, or it may not. And same with risk neutral, it can be or may not be market consistent. And what my takeaway here is that if you want the real world scenario to be market consistent, you have to actually start setting up assumptions thinking about market consistent. How I imagine it is you have to think of the real world scenario. You have to do a whole bunch of different valuations with it. You have to like go short term out, and then you have to do like a whole bunch of stochastic um, scenarios based on trying to be market consistent. And you have to do that like every single year. And that's how I envision how real world could possibly be market consistent. And I suppose a risk neutral valuation, I mean, you could put in there, as we'll see in the other misunderstanding, there's a lot of judgment involved. And I suppose you could shift it where you could make it so it's not market consistent anymore, but it's still risk neutral. That part's still kind of confusing to me. If you have any other insights, please comment below. I'd love to learn from you. And so here we go on misunderstanding 4, which we were kind of leading into from misunderstanding 3. There's very little judgment involved with risk neutral, and this one I understand pretty well, where there actually is a lot of judgment. Like, suppose that for your risk neutral pricing, instead of assuming a bell curve, you say, you know what, a bell curve's not really realistic. I'm going to assume a log normal. Well, your volatility, that's going to change. Your parameters are going to change on there. And a little bit on the topic of different volatilities. I know, for instance, at my job, we get our volatility rates from Barclays. But who's to say that a different place could determine different volatilities and for different market, for the same strike prices and everything. And so it's really difficult to say like, oh, it's just one flat volatility. That's definitely not the case, as we see here in the second one right here. And then right here, this was something that was really interesting to me, that the treasury rates, they're very liquid. And I always assumed that the risk neutral pricing just used the treasuries and it was just code for it. You just use the treasuries. But you have to assume in risk neutral pricing that it's actually illiquid. And so it does have a little bit more risk than a US Treasury. So I thought that was really interesting. So US Treasury is lower in the rates than the risk neutral rate because of a little bit more added risk, like just a little bit because of the liquidity. And then lastly, we have here the misunderstanding 5. The market price of risk is the same for everybody. And that's not the case because each different company analyzes the risk and they, quite frankly, have different risks than someone else. And for instance, if I was just an annuity master company and then adding another annuity, it would just be more diversification. Adding that one won't add that much risk to me. Whereas if I'm a company that it doesn't have a lot of exposure to that kind of risk, maybe, I don't know, maybe it could go either way. Maybe adding another annuity can just add more interest rate risk, whereas the other company, maybe they'll add them diversification. And that's it of my videos. I hope you got some really good insights out of it, and please comment below for any of your additional comments.